There are far too many words to describe the many accomplishments of Mr. Roland Parrish Sr. over his lifetime. I mean, he's a father, he's a husband, a philanthropist, a pioneer, a servant leader, an advocate for his community and for his people. He's a CEO, a musician, a former track star. And to top it all off, as if that weren't enough, you all may or may not know that Mr. Roland Parrish is a very successful business owner of nearly 30 McDonald's restaurants right here in the greater Dallas area. But what's even far more astonishing than his many achievements is his story. Let's just say those golden arches didn't come so easy.
So you can see May 13th, 1986, I filled out an application to become a McDonald's franchisee, and I just knew I had a couple degrees, probably had a little ego, and I just knew I was going to become a franchisee, and I got this reject letter. So for a couple of days I had a pity party, but then I started trying to network because I knew no one in McDonald's. I didn't know anyone in McDonald's. And I started calling every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And this could go on a perseverance, but it could go on a be humble. And what I did was, finally, and the name is Ruth Anderson. Mm-hmm. Finally, after about, I'd say about a month, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, the receptionist said, well, she's not in. So when he says, just a moment. So I'm like, whoa, what do I talk about? So she comes to the phone, and I say, Miss Anderson, my name is Roland Parrish, and I filled out an application, got a reject letter. And so I said I was a little surprised, and I talked about my degrees, and she says, well, in McDonald's, we're not impressed with degrees. And then I said, well, do you have any minority programs? She says, no, we don't have any minority programs. And so, Jade, during my career at Exxon, I worked for Exxon 13 years, even though I had a business degree undergrad and an MBA, I had to work in service stations. Mm-hmm. I had to work the full service pump island, if you remember full service pump island. And I actually ran a service station in Lehigh, Arkansas. Then I ran 15 service stations in Jackson, Mississippi. And I talk about being humble. Some people said, hey, if I had an MBA, I wouldn't run a service station. So I started talking about running service stations. And believe it or not, she didn't cut me off. And I started talking about 6 times around the car, cleaning restrooms, customer service, time clocks, uniforms, landscape. And so when we finished the conversation that day, I wasn't in, but she cracked the door open, gave me some other things to do. So 9 months later, my application was accepted to start a 2-year program where you work 25 hours a week, free, and I repeat, 25 hours a week, free at a McDonald's to learn the system. And you go through the same training that a general manager goes through. They would probably say something like intense. But we have this thing we call vacation dad. Okay. And so we got work dad, vacation dad. So whenever I get with them, and especially if we're away from Dallas, I try to become vacation dad. Okay. So when I become vacation dad, I'm a lot of fun.
Come to find out, there's a whole nother side to Mr. Parrish that very few ever get a chance to see. But I caught up with his kids, and they told me all about his alter ego.
Vacation dad.
Yeah, he's the best.
So, of course, we all know dad is very serious at all times, very locked in, tunnel vision, focused on the job, the task at hand. However, every now and then, when it's time to go out of town and do something fun with the family, he turns into vacation dad.
Yeah, vacation dad makes things fun. He is like, so if you know him normally, he's like exercising all the time, eating healthy. Vacation dad eats ice cream like twice a day. Like desserts all the time. We're going shopping.
Oh, yeah,
we're doing fun things.
With wine too.
Yes, what is it? We drink a whole bottle of wine.
Whoa!
Just him, and spill it out like, whoa, that's it. He drank a whole bottle of wine by himself once.
Yeah.
At dinner. Didn't realize it.
Didn't realize it. Vacation dad is a lot of fun. We love when vacation dad pops up on the scene.
Of course, I had to ask the burning question. Does a McDonald's owner let his kids bring other fast food into the house?
My children are allergic to McDonald's.
Oh,
every time I always go in and I see Subway. I CC's Pizza. I see everything but McDonald's.
Hell no! What? Are you kidding me? So, okay, now check this out. So before you were born, my dad pulled me aside one day and told me about the whole McDonald's deal. He said, son, we're still gonna be able to go out, you know, and maybe go to a Burger King. Like, we'll still do things like this because that's what we did before. Man, one time we went to Burger King after we started with McDonald's because they had a fun little toy that I wanted to get from the Burger King. And you should have seen the steam coming out of his ears and how red he got when we pulled up in that Burger King parking lot. He was not happy. And that was the last time we ever went to a Burger King. Ever.
I learned so much during my short hour that I was able to spend with Mr. Parrish about life and success and family. But there was one story that I will never forget. Mr. Parrish called it his boot story, and it dates back to the 1920s when his grandfather was a sharecropper that moved from Arkansas into the city of Memphis, Tennessee.
They would eventually have 11 children that lived, but at that time they had 4. So he would wake up at about 3:30 in the morning, and my grandmother was fixing breakfast. And so at 4 o'clock, he would leave the house, and they tell me he didn't have shoestrings. He had to tie his boots with wire. He didn't have soles in his shoes. He had to put wire mesh in his shoes. And he was in North Memphis, and he would walk across the area they call the Wolf River. And he'd leave the house at about 4:30. Because at 6 o'clock, 6 a.m., the NFL owners, you know who that is, right? The NFL owners? The man would lay out, if he needed 1 worker, he'd lay out 1 shovel. If he needed 5 workers, he'd lay out 5. But my grandfather would leave so early so he could get there and be the first in line. So he would get work. If he needed 1 man, my grandfather would be there to pick up that first shovel. And so I stand on his shoulders. That's why sometimes my wife asks me, why do you work so hard? And it's like, I owe it to him. I owe it to my father. I owe it to the men in my community.